All right, let's get into this. So, again, my name's Chris. This is a weekly live broadcast. If you are not here very often, well, we do this pretty much every Thursday evening. Sometimes life gets in the way. We can't make it on a Thursday evening, but for the most part, I'm here Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central Time. What is it? There's no topic planned out. This is just an Ask Me Anything kind of session here. Let me adjust this camera a little bit. I feel like it needs to be. There we go. I think that's a little better. So, again, it's not any kind of, topic planned out. Ask me anything. I do my best to respond to all the comments that come in, all the chats that come in on the live chat. So if you're watching this after the video has been live, then, leave a comment and I'll try to respond to that later too. I try to get to most comments. I don't make it every one of them, but most of them I get to. What else? The only things I ask here is be polite, be family friendly. Don't cuss at us. Don't start calling people names. Don't be rude or hateful or any of those things. We'll have to kick you out. But other than that, pretty much anything is fair game here. So good evening, Wesley and Robin's Nest from Florida and Jupiter. Hello, good to see you too. Ignacio says, "Hola, señor Chris, ¿cómo está?" I should answer in Spanish, huh? Muy bien, gracias. I hope you are doing well too. Thank you. Oh, he says thank you for the videos too. You're welcome. Thank you for watching. Hello to you, Chargers at Charger7022 from Pennsylvania. And oh boy, that's a hard name to pronounce. Ed Got Bait? Oh, I guess it's Ed Got Bait. There we go. Says, new subscriber from Virginia Beach, Virginia here. Been watching. Thanks for all the great info. Well, thank you for the kind comment. I appreciate that. Hello to you, A. Jones from northeast tip of Ohio. Good to see you. Thank you. Hopefully you guys are getting some nice weather this week like we are here. Boy, last week was brutal, cold. Coldest I can ever remember it being. It got down to negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperature, not wind chill. Temperature of a negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's the coldest I can ever remember. I think it's the coldest it had been in 100 years. But, boy, it's been beautiful this week. I think Tuesday was 65 degrees. Today was 51 degrees. I mean, it's pretty nice. So, all right. Let's wait for another couple of comments to come in. There's a little bit sometimes of a lag here. There we go. Kyle says, hey, hope you got through this bad weather okay. All my quail got through it okay. Yeah, good to see you, Kyle. Thanks for joining the live broadcast. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, we made it through just fine. No busted pipes so far. Nothing's wrong. Animals all made it fine. No big deal. Ed, it was 67 degrees Fahrenheit here. Yeah, it was like 67, 68 on Tuesday. It was beautiful. And then mid-50s, yesterday, and like 51 today. It was a little chillier today, a north wind, a little bit cooler, but it wasn't bad at all. Excuse me. All right. These are the times I say this every week. I should always plan a topic out to fill this dead space when there's no comments coming in. Usually about the time I say that, somebody asks a question or has a comment there. So, Tommy. Is it Tommy Pratt from West Tennessee? Good to see you, Tommy. Thanks for joining. It says, oh, Jupiter says, do you have any seeds started yet? Not yet. It's still a little early for that for me. I'm going to be doing winter sowing again this year, which I did last year. Worked out really, really well. So I'm really not going to be starting much of anything in the house. And I'm going to be waiting a couple of weeks before I start that stuff out. I'll make sure to show video of it when I do. But basically, I just plant in the ground in little milk jugs and, use those like a greenhouse more or less to start my tomatoes, my peppers. Anything that really needs to be started really early is going to start that way. Anyway, last year it worked out really, really well. The only problem I had with it last year is I think I started it too early. I started it about this time last year, and things were growing out the top of the milk jugs and getting kind of leggy and kind of a little lopsided, top heavy. So I'm going to start them a little bit later this year, and I think they'll do just a little bit better. So, all right, Sillamore says, hey, Chris and all from North Central Arkansas. So glad the snow is gone. Yeah, I'm glad. I like snow. I like to have a little bit of snow every once in a while, but yeah, I'm done with it now. I'm glad that it's gone too. Good to see you, Brad. Thanks for joining. Madison says hello. Hello to you, Madison. And Charles, hey, Chris, the weather is back to normal for you. Yeah, it was actually a little better than normal the last couple of days. Today it's right about normal, 51 degrees. I think we're supposed to get down to like 30 tonight. So it's pretty normal for this time of year. All right, let's do this. Says, just had quail hatch today. It was my first time using the incubator. Thanks for all the info on your videos. Well, awesome. Congratulations on your hatch, and thanks for watching the videos. Yeah, Tommy says congrats too. Madison says, from North Carolina, been pretty warm here. Yeah, I bet. Kyle says, how long do I need to wait to start trying to hatch my quail eggs after they start laying? Good question. Typically, I wait about 2 weeks from the time they start laying to the time I consider the eggs fertile and start hatching them. Now, if you're in a hurry, you want to get it done quicker than that, just start checking the eggs for fertility. It's not that hard to do. Crack a couple of eggs open and dump them in a bowl. And don't do this with just one egg. Use, 4 or 5 at least. Crack them open, dump them in a bowl, and what you're looking for, the yolk will have a little white spot on it, and that's just a sign that it's a mature egg. What you're looking for is a faint bullseye ring around that spot. It'll just be a slightly darker ring around that white spot on the egg. If it's got that ring around it, that bullseye ring, make sure you got good light. It's a little hard to see, but if it's got that ring around it, it's a fertile egg. So if you've cracked 5 eggs and all 5 of them are fertile, it's probably a good sign that all your eggs are fertile. Even if only 4 of them out of 5 are fertile, that's a pretty good sign that you've got pretty good fertility in your eggs, and you can go ahead and start incubating at that time. Hang on just 1 second here. Whoa. Almost knocked the camera down. Sorry about that. Okay, I think we're good. All right, so Adirondack says, just bake cornbread in my cast iron. Awesome. That's the best way to bake cornbread, in my opinion. It comes out just fantastic in a cast iron skillet. Just love it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that tip. Some of you guys probably already knew that, but that was something that whenever I first started cooking cornbread in a cast iron skillet, I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, and finally learned. Heat it up really good and oil it really good before you put your cornbread in there, your cornbread batter. Tommy says, can't spell. Did I... Oh, prepped instead of prepper. Yeah, I missed that. I didn't even notice you spelled it wrong. And says, his mini does... Oh, how many does can one buck service? Well, they can a ton. I mean, if you're talking about like in a specific amount of time, I wouldn't do more than like 1 a day. So, you can figure, I mean, I can't give you an exact amount of how many does he could service, but I would do 1 a day, 3 days in a row, and then you might give him a day break, and then another 1 a day, 3 days in a row. So I don't know if that answers the question for you, but it just depends on how long of a period you want to go. If you want to breed them all in a week and you got, 6 does, then yeah, you could probably do that. If you want to, breed them all, if you've got more than that and you want to spread it out, well, you've got plenty of time to do that too. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. But yeah, you can breed him once a day for probably 3 days, give him a little bit of a break, and then again, once a day for another 3 days, give him a little bit of a break. So that's, 3 does in 3 days, a break, and then 3 more does in 3 days, and hopefully that kind of makes sense. I can't give you an exact number because, well, there's a lot of variables there, but that hopefully gives you what you're looking for. Excuse me. Christopher Stone says, when are you starting your seeds indoors? Oh, man, that's a common question tonight. I need to do a video on it, don't I? Yeah, I just talked about this, actually. I'm not going to be starting anything indoors, I don't believe. Maybe a few things, but for the most part, I'm going to be winter sowing outside in the garden. My tomatoes, my peppers, anything else that I want to get a quick start on, using milk jugs as kind of like little greenhouses, basically. I'll be doing videos on it when it's time, but it'll be a couple of weeks out. It's just a little too early to get those going yet. Last year I did them a little early, and they grew too well. I mean, it worked, and they grew out the tops of the milk jugs before I was ready to remove the milk jugs from them, the greenhouses from them. So anyway, we'll see. Probably 2 weeks from now, somewhere right around in there, we'll get them going. Hey, looky there. There's a super chat from Brad Smith. Says, what kind of feed do you use for your rabbits? Well, if you're looking for a brand name, I actually get it from a local feed store. But it's just a rabbit feed, a 19% rabbit feed. That's really all. I mean, it's an alfalfa-based rabbit pellet. That's it. That's what I feed them primarily. I do give them hay. They get Timothy hay. They can eat as much Timothy hay as they want. But I feed them a rabbit pellet. I can't give you the brand name because I don't remember what it is. I have to go look it up. But it is the local feed store, whatever they carry. It's a local brand. So it's like you can't get that everywhere. But that doesn't matter. Just go to a feed store, ask them for rabbit pellets, try to get a higher protein. Anything above about 16% is probably pretty good. I like 19% myself because that's what my feed store carries. You don't need to go any above that. Above 20% is too high. You want to keep it between about 16 and 20%, somewhere right around in their protein. That's the most important thing. If you're using any kind of rabbit pellet from any kind of feed store, if it's between 16 and 19% protein, it's going to be just fine for your rabbits. Hopefully that answers that question for you. Let's see. Keisha says, hey, Chris, hope you and your wife are both doing well. Thank you. We are doing well, actually. Got some good news this week. I hadn't shared this with everybody, but, you know, my wife had a bone scan done a couple of weeks. And some of you guys don't know, my wife's had a lot of health problems over the last couple of years. Breast cancer, a double mastectomy. Let's see what else. The list of things. She had to have a hysterectomy first because they found precancerous cells, but they didn't take her ovaries at the time. Then like 6 months later came down with breast cancer, double mastectomy. And then like 6 months after that, or it wasn't even 6 months, I think it was just like 3 or 4 months after that, they found out that the cancer was estrogen feeding cancer, something like that. So they went in and took her ovaries. So then she had to go through menopause. And then let's see what else was in there. Gallbladder had to be removed at that point. Found out she's got a gene mutation, a P10 gene mutation, which the P10 gene is what suppresses tumor growth. And since she has this mutation, it doesn't suppress tumor growth. So she's got to go every 6 months for endoscopies and remove polyps in her throat and stomach and, you know, esophagus and stuff like that. So far, no cancer there. That's good, but they got to remove them every once, you know, periodically every 6 months. And then the other day I had a bone scan done last week, and they thought she had bone cancer. So we've been, you know, at the doctor, a couple of different doctors this week. 2 of them. One was a radiology oncologist. The other one is, I don't remember what his exact title is, but he wasn't definitive. He said, I just can't definitively say this is cancer. You know, it looks kind of like it in this one scan, but this other scan doesn't really show the same thing. I'm not real confident to make that diagnosis yet. Let's do some more testing. Let's do another scan. The next day we went to the radiology oncologist, and he said basically the same thing. Actually, he went so far as to say, I would be very surprised if this was cancer. So they ordered a PET scan for her. She's got to do a PET scan, and we're going to get a definitive answer. But I'm feeling pretty confident that she is not, you know, that it's all clear. So anyway, share a little bit of that with you guys just to let you know. Always something going on. Always something. But so far, she's doing pretty well. I think she's a little stressed out, so any prayers for her would be good. I mean, you can imagine she had thyroid cancer about 20 years ago as well. So she's just convinced that, you know, cancer is going to take her out at some point. And just the prayers for her right now are just for peace of mind and comfort. And I appreciate it all. So thank you. All right, let's go on. Hello to you. What is that? Geyer Kitek? I don't know what that... I don't know what your name is. Geyer Kitek? GI Architect, maybe? GI Architect? I bet that's it. Creations. So thanks. Good to see you. Hola to you, Joe. And let's see. Linda says, I wrote you a message, but it was too late and didn't go. I'm watching you from Australia, and have been inspired by you and have learned much from you. And now I'm successfully raising quail. Well, I'm sorry about that, Linda. I'm not sure if you guys have been sending me messages on Facebook and stuff. I've been really bad about responding to those, and I'm sorry about that. It gets overwhelming. Sometimes I get so many messages coming in, and I just can't keep up with them all. I've got a pretty busy life. So sometimes I have had a tendency to kind of ignore all the Facebook messages coming in lately, try to focus on getting the comments on the YouTube channel answered. So if that's what you're talking about, I apologize if I missed that message. But thank you for the kind comments. I'm glad you're finding the videos helpful. Thank you for watching them. Donnie says, Lisa from Illinois, first quail coming next month. Love your channel and appreciate all the great info. Awesome. Well, thank you for watching as well. And let's see. Linda says, we have had a heat wave and it's been 40 degrees at times. That is Celsius. What's that, about 75, 80 degrees? I got to look that up because I don't know Celsius here. Oh, that's 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, that's pretty warm. So I'm kind of jealous, but at the same time, I don't want 104. I'd like it to be about 90. You know, that's about right for me. All right. Josh says, hello, guys. Late check-in, but sheesh, the weather in Mississippi is amazing. Yeah, we've been talking a little bit about the weather tonight. It's been pretty nice here, too. Spring is coming. Madison says, now my chickens are laying eggs, getting 4 per day. It's going good. How are your quail? They're all doing fine. No eggs right now coming in. It's that time of year, especially with the weather we've had. It's not so much the cold weather or anything like that. It's just been like cloudy and gloomy and all that for like the past couple of weeks, like every day almost. So there's just not enough light coming out, even with the light that I've got on them. Because it's been so cloudy and gloomy, it's not charging up, so it hasn't been working. So now it's starting to pick back up, and I'm sure within the next week or two they're going to start laying again. But they're doing fine, no problems. Good to see you, Owen. Jesse says, how often do you clean out the nest box after the kits are born? How often do I clean it out? I don't usually clean it out at all until I remove it. And that's usually when they're 2 to 3 weeks old, somewhere right around in there, depending on what the weather's like. If it's going to be really, really cold, I'll leave it in there a little bit longer. But like right about now, mine are going on 3.5 to 4 weeks old right now. And it was so cold last week, I went ahead and left it in there. But now they're very seldom in it. They're pretty much out running around all the time. So I think I'll probably be pulling it out this weekend, maybe next. But either way, I don't usually clean it out at all until I just pull it out of there. Unless I have like a kit that passed away or something like that and it needs to be cleaned out. But usually it's not an issue. All right, GI Architect says, why does some quail foam from the mouth when I hold them? I think, that's a good question. I don't know if I can give you the exact answer. I'm just going to give you my theory on it because I haven't looked that up yet. But what I've noticed is it's kind of a stress factor, especially if they've just recently got done eating or drinking. Quail, just like chickens, have a crop, and they tend to store food in that crop before it goes down through the rest of their digestive system. And I think if if they've just got done drinking or eating or whatever, and they have that in their crop, and you pick them up, and they, it's a reaction, it's like a nervous, panic kind of reaction. They start kind of regurgitating some of that, and it comes out as a foam in their mouth. It's nothing really to worry about necessarily. It's just, I think that's all it is. So. All right, Lee says, direct sow seeds are always healthier. Well, in some things, yeah, for sure. Some things do really, really well transplanted. Tomatoes are fine. And I've grown some really strong, healthy tomatoes from transplants. My direct sown ones that I did under the milk jugs last year for the winter sowing, they got a little bit of a start, maybe a little bit better than what my transplanted out plants did, but it wasn't a huge difference. But there are certain things for sure, green beans, any kind of root crop, carrots or onions or any of those kinds of things almost always do better direct sown. Anyway, there's several things I would agree for sure do better direct sown. All right, Julie says, oops, sorry, Julie is from Melbourne, Australia. Oh, okay. I'm lost on that one. I'm sorry. All right, Ed Got Base says, I asked the leg size bands and found some size 2, 1/8 inch for day-only chicks, size 3, 5/32 of an inch for 1 to 4 week old, size 4, 1/4 inch for adults. I'm going to add to NFC tag to log info of the bird. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I do remember your comment asking about that, and I've never measured the bird's legs, so I can't ever remember what size bands go on them because I just don't use them myself. I don't find it that big a deal, but I need to look that up and make a note of it so whenever people ask, I can always have it handy to at least respond with it. Sorry, grab a drink here and then we'll get on. Casey, I see the question about the feed. ADM rabbit pellet 16 is what I use. Yeah, that sounds just fine. I don't see any problem with that at all. I would say if you're going to buy rabbit feed, quail feed, any kind of feed like that, try to find a local feed store that's going to carry it for you. And a local feed store, not like a Tractor Supply or an Atwoods or something like that. Although Atwoods does have a pretty good price on quail food when game bird starter. But still, it's better to find a local feed store. You're almost always going to get a better price and just as good, if not better, of a product. And don't order it on Amazon or any of those kinds of things because you're going to pay out the nose for it. Shipping's expensive on that stuff. You're ordering a 50-pound bag. I mean, it's going to cost you some money in shipping. Also, another trick, too, is if you have a hard time finding the feed that you're looking for, like you can't find a high enough protein quail feed or, you can't find a higher protein rabbit feed. My rabbit feed's this way. Check with your feed store and see if they can order in a higher protein. My feed store doesn't carry 19% rabbit pellet, but that's what I get, and they have it ordered in specifically for me. It doesn't cost me anything extra. It just comes on the truck with everything else. They just don't carry it on a regular basis because not many people want it. So anyway, that's a good tip. Jupiter says, do you have any vacations planned for this year? Not anything definite at this point. We're going to see if we can't work something out, but I don't know if we will or not. We'll find out. We may have to wait till next year. We may do it this year. I don't know yet. We'll see. All right, Keisha says, definitely we'll pray for her and you as well. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Sillamore says, many prayers. Thank you. Lee, thank you for the prayers. Appreciate that. Thank you, Josh. Donnie says, I'll be praying, Lord bless your wife with peace and health. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate that. Jesse, thank you for the prayers. Tommy, thank you. Renee, sending prayers your way. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, Boris, good to see you. Madison says, my doe almost due to have her babies. I'm getting very excited, but the last litter she had was a failed litter. Sadly, they all died. Hopefully this litter will be good. Yeah, I hope so too. I would say, I mean, especially if the last litter was her first litter, then yeah, give her another chance for sure. If you have problems with this litter too, if you lose this one as well, I'd say it's probably time to look for a new rabbit. That's a sign of really bad mothering instincts if they continue to have failed litters, litter after litter after litter. All right. You know, a lot of people say give them 3 chances, and that's not a bad idea. I'm sorry, I wasn't done with that one. But, you know, really, in my opinion, if you have 2 complete failed litter twice in a row, it's probably a bad sign. I would look for another rabbit at that point if it was me. All right, GR Architect says, okay, thanks. Well, you're welcome. Josh, anyone have kits born during the bad storm? We had a lot of crazy births with our rabbits. Yeah, I've had them. I don't think I've ever had one born during a really bad storm. I've had them born in, like, you know, super cold weather, sub-0 degree temperature. You know, I can't really say that I've had one. We don't usually get, I breed mostly in the wintertime. We don't usually get big storms in the wintertime. It's usually, you know, like snow and stuff like that. It's not like thunderstorms that come through in the spring. All right. Lee says, do you mulch your plants? If so, what kind of mulch do you prefer? I actually use a woven ground cover as a mulch on my garden. I'll be showing that whenever I go to lay it out, tell you guys specifically which one I'm using. I've kind of switched over to a different one from what I used last year. The one I used last year and the year before I was having poor results with the water. It wasn't getting through to the plants. It was kind of sitting on top and wasn't draining through as much as I'd like it to. So I bought a different kind this year, and it looks to be much, much better. I think it's going to work out a lot better. But basically it's like a plastic kind of woven ground cover, not like, I'll have to show you whenever I get there. It's not like sheet plastic, like trash bag plastic. It's like a woven, thick kind of, I don't know if it's plastic, if it's nylon, exactly what it's made of. But anyway, lay that out, staple it down, use a lighter or a torch or something to burn some holes where I'm going to be putting my plants and plant them right in there. And that's basically my mulch layer. I have used wood chips in the past. Wood chips make a great mulch, but the problem I have with that is that, man, I just can't keep up with it. I can't have enough wood chips on my garden to keep the weeds suppressed because we've got like Bermuda grass and stuff like that grows here. That's just, I mean, it eventually takes over. And I just can't, you'd have to have a mulch layer about that thick to keep it from growing up through there. And even then, sometimes it will make it up through. So I switched over to a ground cover like that. And I mean, it's the same difference. It works like mulch. I just, that's what I've used. My grandfather always used hay and had really good, straw. Had really good results with using straw. And I've done that before too, and it works pretty well. It just breaks down so fast that, again, it's hard. You got to keep adding it. Got to keep adding it. You know, feeds your garden, which is good, but keeps breaking down. All right. Gina says, hey, everyone from Texas, going to try to incubate turkey and duck eggs. Hopefully we can have babies. Well, awesome. I hope that works out well for you. I hope you guys are doing okay in Texas. I don't know if you're in the part of Texas that got hit by all that weather, that, you know, the power outages and things like that. But yeah, it's, I hear it's been pretty rough. Whitewater Crafting says, just found your channel today. First clutch of chicken eggs going in the incubator tomorrow. Thank you. Well, awesome. Thanks for joining the live broadcast, and thanks for watching my videos. Herman says, Chris, do quail need direct sunlight? Mine are in the shade and quit laying. No, they don't need direct sunlight, but they do need light. They need about 16 hours a day of light in order to lay. Well, 14 is probably good enough, but in order to lay on a regular, consistent basis. So if you don't have an external light on them, and you live in North America, which I don't know if you do or not, but, you know, the days are pretty short right now. Like right now, I think, let's see, sun up was about 7 o'clock this morning, and sundown was like 6:15. So that's just little less than 12 hours worth a day of light. So you do need to add an external light and give them an extra couple of hours of light if you want them to lay. Now, as we get closer into spring and into summer, then the days are going to be plenty long, and if you won't have any problems with that. But no, they don't need direct sunlight. I keep mine pretty much in the shade, and they do just fine. But they do need amount of light, consistent amount. All right. A couple of you guys talking to each other. I'll let you guys have your conversations. Rowena says, I have been putting electrolytes in my quail's warm water during these cold nights. Do I have to worry about overdoing it? Probably not. I don't ever use any kind of electrolytes or any of those kinds of things in my watering system, but there's nothing wrong with doing it. It's fine. I don't think there's any level where you're going to have to worry about overdoing it, but you don't need to worry. I mean, you don't need to put that much in there. So just follow the instructions, whatever the dosage says, however much water, that's going to work just fine. All right. Tommy says, super done. Got to go. Everyone. Oh, supper is done, not super. I read that wrong. That makes more sense. Well, have a good dinner, Tommy. Thanks for joining us. Tyler says, hi, Chris. I enjoy working out in my quail building Thursday nights and listening to your show. Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for tuning in while you're doing the chores. Hopefully the birds are doing well. Sillamore says, Bermuda grass is the bane of all gardeners. Oh my gosh, isn't that true? It's a word, you can't hardly get rid of it. It's unbelievable how hard that is to get rid of. Smothering it's the only way I've found, with laying out tarps or whatever. And the problem is you've got to keep it covered, because if you don't, I mean, it doesn't take any time. It comes right back. It's, it's crazy. It'll just creep in there. So when I first built my garden where it was, this was years and years and years ago when we first bought this house, 2007, I think it was, or maybe it was 2008. Anyway, it was a while back. And I dug out that garden spot about that deep and had dirt brought in. And then, I brought in dirt, and then, the grass started to come back up in there. So I laid down cardboard and sheet mulched it like a back to Eden kind of garden. So I laid down cardboard over the entire garden area, got a bunch of straw, laid that out over the top of that cardboard about that thick, laid a layer of compost over the top of that about that thick, and then wood chips about that thick over the top of that compost, planted down into that compost. And man, it did great. It was fantastic. Just beautiful garden. One of the best ones I ever had for about 2 years. And then the grass started making its way back up through, and I couldn't keep on top of keeping it back. So that's why I went over to the woven ground covers and covering it with that. And that's working really, really well. It's keeping the Bermuda grass out of the garden. So right now the dirt's pretty good and loose. So anyway, that's my story about that. Ricky says, going to be in the 80s here in Florida this weekend. Well, yeah, that's pretty common in Florida, isn't it? You guys in Florida always bragging about the 80s in the wintertime. Yeah, I am jealous, though. Raymond says, love your rabbits. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Whitewater Crafting says, Texas here as well. Lots of lessons learned. Well, I'm glad that you're learning a whole lot. Hopefully, I think you mean from my channel, I'm guessing. So, again, thank you for watching the videos. I'm glad you're learning. And hopefully you guys in Texas are staying safe. You've got power, you've got food, you got water, all those kinds of things. I've been seeing some things on the news about how bad it was. I used to live in Texas. I lived in East Texas, Nacogdoches. And I lived there for about 8 years. I can't imagine what it was like down there if they got, extreme cold and snow. And, I say this all the time, those, the Southerners, they make, or not the Southerners, the Northerners make fun of the Southerners when they get a bunch of snow and it just cripples them. They're just like, oh, look at those guys. They got 4 inches of snow and it shut down the entire town. And they're bragging about their 12 inches, 15 inches. But I'm telling you what, if you don't have snow plows out plowing the roads, 4 inches is a lot of snow. And those guys down there are not prepared to handle it because they don't get that weather very often. I mean, it's like once every 10, 15 years. So, it's really not, they're really not being wusses. It really is that much worse for them than it is for you. You guys that live even us here in Missouri that live, we don't get a lot of snow, but we get snow every year. We have snow plows to plow the roads. They salt them. And we're just kind of prepared to handle this stuff. Our houses are insulated for it. It's not that way in Texas. It's not that way in South Carolina. And, some of those places we kind of make fun of. Anyway, enough of my rant there. So, all right, Josh says, they say 80s here in Mendenhall, Mississippi on Saturday. Yeah, we're supposed to be up to like 65. It's going to be a beautiful day. Tyler says, are the disadvantages to feeding fescue hay to my rabbits. I don't think there would be any disadvantages to that. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't. I feed mine a Timothy hay because that's a pretty easy one to pick up commercially. And pellets are primarily alfalfa, so I don't see any reason to feed them an alfalfa hay when they're getting primarily alfalfa diet out of their pellets. I want to give them a little bit of variety, but I don't see any reason why fescue wouldn't be fine. All right. All right. Keto says, Keto Cutie is the name, says, raising my first chicks, fingers crossed they are actually pullets, like Tractor Supply said, not set up to process poultry if there are any roosters. Yeah, good luck with that. I hope they turn out to be what you think they are, for sure. I was at Tractor. Some of you guys may know the answer to this, and I'll ask this question. Look at me. I'm on my live broadcast, answering questions for you, but asking you a question. I don't pretend to know everything, or even most things, honestly. Just a little bit here and there. But anyway, I was at Tractor Supply, and I went there to get some dog food today after work, and they have their chicks in already. I mean, it's still February, so it's a little early. I don't really want to get in. But anyway, they had little yellow chicks. I mean, looked like day-old chickens up in this, rack, their little chick display thing. And I asked the girl there, she didn't have the slightest idea. They were clueless. But she, and that sounds like an insult. It isn't really. She tried. She just didn't know what she was talking about. I asked her what kind of chickens they were. She said, they're broilers. And I said, well, are they Cornish? She said, no, they're not Cornish. And then she had to call somebody to ask them. And she said, okay, they're CT broiler. And I'm like, well, what is CT broiler? I don't know what that is. And she didn't know either. She said, I don't know. That's just what it said on the box when they came in. So I'm thinking they may be Cornish cross. They're little yellow chicks. They look like Cornish cross chicks. And if I can get them right from Tractor Supply, they wanted $2.50 a bird for them, which is not bad. That's right about, I mean, I can get them a little cheaper online, but then I got to pay shipping. So I think they're Cornish cross, but I don't know. You guys tell me if that's what you think they are too. And if I can get them there, I'm not quite ready to get my meat birds yet. I mean, it's, they're only going to spend a couple of weeks in the brooder, and then they're going to go out to the grow-up pens. And we're in February. I mean, we're still a month and a half out from our last frost date, and I'm a little concerned about that. But anyway, we'll see. Raymond says, I'm from Jamaica, and it's cold out here. How cold does it get in Jamaica? I wonder. Well, of course, your cold may not be the same as our cold, but anyway, Eric says, Chris, I'm loving your morning uploads and expanded videos. They are not quail and rabbits. They are amazed, but new stuff is fun and helpful. Please do a bread bake recipe, please. Prayers on the way. Well, thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate all that. Yeah, I'm glad you're liking some of the videos there. I mean, I've changed it up just a little bit, trying to show some things besides just rabbits and quail all the time. I will still be doing rabbit and quail videos, but I've got so many of them out there already. I don't want to just, give you guys the same content regurgitated every once in a while. Now, I will still do some of those old topics I've covered before and do updated videos on them because we have new subscribers and people asking questions and things. So I'll still do that from time to time, and well, most of the time probably. But I'm trying to mix in some other videos, some different things that, because there's more to life than just rabbits and quail and gardens. But I'll try to get them in there. Now, as far as a bread recipe, I don't really have a great bread recipe. I'm not a big bread eater, honestly. I'll see what I can do to come up with one maybe and see what I can do for you. All right, good to see you, Big Mike. He wants to know how everybody's doing. I'm doing well. Hopefully you are too. Sillamore says, exactly, Bermuda comes back no matter what. I fight it yearly and have tried all the tricks like you. Yep. Yeah, I know the feeling. Trust me. And it's a problem with that is that it produces off rhizomes. Like if you take a piece of Bermuda grass and break it up and throw it on the ground, each one of those will produce a new piece of Bermuda grass. So, I mean, you can't just pull it all out of the ground. You can't just pull it off right there at the stem. You can't till it in, because if you till it in, you just chop it up and make a lot more grass. It's crazy. Anyway, Madison says, hey, Chris, what are some of the vegetables that you recommend growing? Probably going to start a tiny garden. I'm thinking about carrots. Yeah, carrots aren't bad. They're a little tricky to grow. What you need for carrots, what I found, is very loose soil. So I find they do better in containers around here. Now, I don't know what your soil is there, but Southwest Missouri, we grow rocks pretty much as well as we can grow anything else. So carrots don't do well for me in the ground, because what happens if you've got really rocky soil, the carrots will grow down, hit a rock, and grow sideways, and it just stunts their growth. They just don't do very well that way to me. I find they do much better in the in containers. So that's how I do carrots. As far as, hang on a second, Zach, I got a super chat here. I got to respond to that real quick. Zachab, I think it is. Hey, Chris, love the channel. Learned all from you. Appreciate you. I have a quail that went broody, so I moved it. Any tips on how I can get it sitting again? Yeah, that's tricky. Quail don't typically go broody, and if they do, sometimes they don't even stay broody for the entire amount of time. Now, what I have heard from lots of people that have had really, I've had success with quail going broody and hatching their eggs, is put them in a more natural environment, like on the ground with a lot of space, and they may be more likely to go broody and hatch their own eggs. I don't know if I can give you great advice on getting them, to actually go to sitting again. That's it. That's the only thing that I've heard that really anybody has had any kind of success with. Lots of stories about people saying, oh, I had a bird go broody. They sat on the eggs for like 4 or 5 days and then quit sitting on them and gave up. Or, the poor hatch rate, all kinds of things like that. So, unfortunately, I just don't have great great advice on how to get them to go broody and hatch their own birds or own eggs. The only time I've seen it done is like in big aviaries where they have like ground aviaries and let the birds roam loose in there, and they have a pretty good size area for them. They're not very densely packed at all. And then I've seen it, happen like that. So I think that's probably the key. All right, back to you, Madison. Sorry. Some vegetables I recommend for growing. If you're looking for something really easy to grow, green beans. Green beans do really, really well. You don't have to have really great soil for green beans. So even if you haven't added a lot of amendments to your green beans are nitrogen fixers, whereas most other plants are nitrogen consumers. So, you plant something in the ground, it usually needs a lot of nitrogen to grow. But green beans put nitrogen back into the ground when they grow, and they're pretty easy to grow. So that's a good choice. Depends on what else you like. Tomatoes are my standard. Tomatoes, peppers, they're not too hard to grow. They're pretty easy. What else? What else do you like? Lettuce is actually really easy, and that's one you can get away with really, really early. Hey, there's another super chat from Zach. Well, thank you, Zach. I appreciate that, and I hope I got your question answered for you. Thank you for the super chats. I'm not sure what that emoji, what is that? Oh, it looks different up in the top of the chat than it does down there, but that's a pear with a, I don't know what that is. But anyway, thank you very much. So what else? What other vegetables would I recommend? If you like herbs, fresh herbs can be really nice to grow. Be careful with herbs, though. Most herbs were considered weeds before we found out what they could be used for. So like if you plant oregano in your garden, it's gonna take over. You want to plant that in a place where it doesn't matter how much it grows. Mint is the same way. Don't plant mint unless you got a way. Like I plant mint right next to my deck because it can grow right there as much as it wants. And if it starts getting out into the yard, I just mow it, and it smells minty when I mow. So it's it's not a big deal. But don't plant that in like your vegetable garden because it will take over and it'll choke everything else out. Those are easy to grow as well. Basil's a really good one. I love fresh basil. It's not too difficult to grow, and I'll tell you guys a little trick about basil. If, the problem you have with basil is that, you start it and it grows and it gets big, and then about the time your tomatoes get ripe, which is when you want the fresh basil, your basil starts bolting and it starts going to seed. And when it starts going to seed, it's not nearly as good. But there's something you can do is you just pinch off a piece of that, like, a piece about that long or so, strip off the bottom couple of leaves and stick it in a glass of water, and it will root out. Put it in like a sunny window. It'll root out. You can plant that, and it'll grow a whole new basil plant. So you don't have to start them from seed, all over again. You can just kind of have endless supply of basil in a sense. So there's a couple of suggestions there. Cucumbers I like quite a bit. I don't know how much, you said a tiny garden, so if you're talking a tiny garden, you may not want to plant tomatoes because that's going to be, the tomatoes get pretty big and they take up a lot of room. So if it's a tiny garden, I would suggest green beans as a good one. You can get either pole beans or bush beans. There we go. Pole beans or bush beans. Pole beans are going to need something to climb. So like you need to put a fence or, it doesn't have to be a huge one, but something there for them to climb up. Bush beans will hold themselves up, and they're going to, stand about this tall, probably take up a space about that big. And you plant a row of those and get a pretty good harvest out of them. Green beans are pretty harvest. I like bush beans better. They're just more convenient for me. What else would be pretty easy to grow in a small spot and get, lettuce is a really good one. Do that early season. Lettuce doesn't like the heat, so you want to start that just as soon as like probably a week before your average last frost date, you can go ahead and plant that stuff out. But yeah, some good romaines or anything like that, they're fairly easy to grow as long as the weather doesn't get too hot, as long as it's pretty cool. And you'll get a pretty good harvest out of there, and then still have time to plant something else behind it when it does start to get hot. Like green beans, you can do those anytime. So you could plant lettuce and carrots. You could try carrots. What else is easy to grow? I'm trying to think of what else I grow. I love okra, but again, in a small space, that may not be great. Boy, there's too many things. You're going to get me going on that for hours. So hopefully I gave you some ideas there, Madison. Keith says, what camera do you use to make your videos? Right now I'm using my, I use a Canon 90D. It's a DSLR camera. That's what I use for my photography. That's what I use for my videos, record all my videos on. I started off with a handy cam type thing, like a Canon video recorder. It was like a specifically video only recorder. That's what I started off making my videos with. And, you know, I can look back at it and see the quality wasn't that great with those, but you know, you start with what you got. I saved up my money, bought a new camera, and that's what I've been using ever since, the Canon 90D. All right. NWL says, NWFL Deacon's wife says, hello, Chris. Hello to you. Thank you for joining. Big Mike says, my quail are 7 months old. When should they start laying eggs? Anytime now, assuming you got enough light for them. Again, they need 14 to 16 hours a day of light on a consistent basis. So if you've got them outside and you're in North America, and if I remember right, Big Mike, I think you're from like New York area. So your days probably aren't 16 hours a day, 14 hours a day even. They're probably more like 11, 11 and a half, maybe 12. And so you'll need a couple extra hours of supplemental lighting added to them. So usually around 8 weeks old is when most of the birds start laying, if they've got the right conditions. Now, if you're just now putting light on them, it's going to take them another couple of weeks after that to get in the cycle. It takes a couple of weeks for them to acclimate to the light and get to where, you know, they start laying because of the actual light. All right, Bob says, hey, Chris, is it safe to substitute clean beach sand, not bleach, beach sand, for store-bought play sand in the quail hutch? I don't see why not. I think it would be just fine. Yeah, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't use that. I would sift it out, make sure there's nothing crazy weird in there, you know, pieces of glass or whatever. You want to get that out of there. But, and you might run it through the oven, bake it at, you know, like 300 degrees for 15 minutes or something like that, just to kill off any kind of parasites or anything that are in there. All right, NWFL says, Timothy hay is $35 a small box at Walmart, but only $30 for a whole bale at the feed store. Why is that, I wonder? Yeah, that's because you're buying it at Walmart, probably. I don't know. I can't answer those questions for you. You go to Walmart during the, you know, the fall, the autumn, or whatever, and they have these little bitty bales of straw, and they want like $10 or $15 for them. I can buy a whole bale of straw for like $5. You know, they want like $10 for a little miniature bale of straw. It's all for decoration or something. It's crazy. Yeah, don't ever buy like rabbit food, hay, any of those things in the pet section, because they sell little bitty bags of it, and it's incredibly expensive, where you can go to the feed store and get it so much cheaper. All right. Whitewater says, I got some lavender Orpingtons at TSC today for $3.99. Awesome. Congratulations on your new birds. Keto Cutie says, I saw those today too. They're actually almost sold out. I read the tag and they said straight run Cornish cross. Yeah, that seems like that's not a bad deal. I think it was $250 or $260 a bird, which is, I mean, I can get them cheaper online, like I said, but I can't get them cheaper when you add the shipping in. So it's like $30 or $40 in shipping to get them shipped to my house or to the post office. So I'm going to see if they have any here in about 2 weeks probably, and go ahead and pick them up. All right. Josh says, ours just has a brooder, no chicks. I don't know what that means, Josh. I'm kind of lost. I'm sorry. Big Mike says, that's awesome. Oh, wait a minute. I think that's what you're talking about. I don't know. I'm lost on that. All right, Josh says, they're just meat birds. It's whatever they can get a hold of. Oh, you're talking about the type of... Oh, okay, there we go. Now I'm with you. Your Tractor Supply has a brooder with no chicks in it, and you said the birds are just meat birds. It's whatever they can get a hold of. It could be. They sure look like Cornish cross, but, you know, it's hard to tell. Little yellow birds look like Cornish cross, you know. Kathom says, I saw you put rabbit manure in your garden. Does that need to be tilled in? I don't till it in. I just throw it on there and just leave it. There's no reason to, you don't have to till it in at all. When you put the cover over it, especially, bugs and things like that will work it into the soil themselves. I mean, I put rabbit manure on my garden every year, and when you pull the ground cover off of them to like put more stuff on them, you can't even tell. It's just gone. It's not even there anymore. It's just worked its way into the soil. So yeah, there's no reason to till it in. I mean, you can if you want to. You just don't need to. There's actually pretty good evidence that tilling your garden does more harm than good in a lot of ways. Now, it depends. I mean, if your garden is all compacted and stuff like that, then yeah, sometimes you need to till it. And I do till my gardens when I first build them out, but then I usually don't till them ever again. Unless I've been walking all over them and compacted them down and they need to be tilled up again for that reason, which I try not to do. So Army92 says, hello, Chris. Hope you're doing good. Follow you live from Europe, south of West Balkan. It's 2:30 a.m. here. Oh, my goodness, that's late. Thanks for staying up late. I appreciate that. Kathom says, for those of you that have fruit trees, beware of cicadas this year. I'll be buying mosquito netting to put over my trees. I know the spelling's bad. Well, I knew what you meant. I don't think I could spell mosquito myself either, so... Oh, Rough Patch Homestead says, garlic is easy. Plant it and walk away for months. You're absolutely right. Garlic is easy. But garlic is really one of those that you want to plant in the fall. Just like a couple of weeks before your first frost. Just take a head of garlic, like a clove. One clove of garlic, stick it in the ground, and it'll sprout up and grow about that big before the frost hits, hopefully. And then, you know, sometimes in late summer, the next summer, you're going to be able to harvest it and have brand new garlic. So yeah, garlic is an easy one. You're right. All right. Is that Kamikaze? Says hello from Kansas. Well, I don't know what part of Kansas you're in, but we may be neighbors. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Sillamore says hit the thumbs up for Chris. Well, thank you, Sillamore. I appreciate that. The G-Boy says, hey, how old do rabbits have to be to breed them? Oh, well, that's another common question I've been getting a lot lately. I guess I need to do another video on that topic. Rabbit, usually about 6 months old is how old you want to wait for your rabbits. Now, that's assuming that they're a standard meat rabbit, like a New Zealand or a California or something. If you're talking about like Flemish Giants, the giant breeds like that, you're going to want to wait till they're about 8 months old to breed them. But generally, 6 months, they're okay to start breeding at that point. Rough Patch Homestead says, lemon balm is the same as mint too. It's very similar. It's in the same family. You're right. But I don't find it to be nearly as prolific. In fact, it's a little bit... I had some lemon balm that I planted, and it did okay, but it didn't do great. Now, my mint, I planted some mint. It's just everywhere. I mean, it just goes like crazy. I didn't find lemon balm to be quite that prolific with it, but that's a good point. Yeah, lemon balm is very similar. Jupiter says, thanks for the reminder to Sillamore. What did I... Oh, for the thumbs up. Thank you. And, yep, depends on breed, on when rabbits are ready to breed. Yeah, usually 6 months is a good age for rabbit breeding. All right, Ed says, have you tried growing in grow bags? No, I haven't ever tried grow bags. I don't think I have. It's possible, but I don't think so. But I've done lots of container gardening, self-watering containers, sub-irrigated. It's fantastic. That's the way to go with container gardening for sure. I've got a couple of raised beds. My raised beds are primarily... primarily garlic. I've got 2 of them dedicated for garlic. I'd grow carrots in one of my raised beds, and they're just small garden boxes. You know, they're like, I don't know, that wide by that long or something. You know, they're not huge, but it's a good space to do carrots, garlic. What else? I'm thinking about doing some potatoes in one of them this year. It's a pretty good sized box, so I might be able to get away with some decent potatoes in there. I don't know. We'll see. Big Mike says squash is easy. Squash needs lots of space, though. It does. Zucchini is another one that's pretty easy to grow, too. But you're right. They get huge. They take up a lot of room. So you're looking at probably a, I don't know, a 3-foot square at least. Maybe probably bigger than that. You can prune your squash back a little bit to keep it a little bit more manageable. The one thing you have to worry about with squash and zucchini is the vine borers. That's a pretty common issue that we have around here. And, you know, I never used to have that problem. Then all of a sudden they moved in, and now it's all the time. Every year I have that problem with vine borers. So if you stay on top of it, you can, sorry, I got an itch here I got to reach back and get. if you stay on top of the vine borers, you can dig them out of the vines, and you know, if you can get them early enough. But it's tricky. All right. Yep. Big Mike says thanks. I'm in. Oh, NWFL says means Northwest Florida. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. I'll probably forget that, but thank you. Yeah, it's funny how different people in different parts of the country, like down here, SWMO means Southwest Missouri, but nobody would know that outside of here probably. We don't even think about it. It's just SWMO is Southwest Missouri, you know? All right, so Big Mike, you've been adding light for 2 weeks now. Yep, you should be getting eggs anytime now. Maybe another week, but I would be surprised if it took longer than that. All right, so Deacon's wife, I'll just call you that, maybe. Thanks for the hay info. Just wondered if the box had anything special about it. I love your vids. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. You're welcome. No, the box doesn't have anything special about it. They just sell it as a pet supply so they can charge more for it. Rough Patch Homestead says, have you ever considered raised beds with a rabbit tractor that fits on top? Thinking about doing them myself. You know, that's not a terrible idea. That's a pretty good idea. The only problem is I don't want to have them over like while I'm growing things, so it would only be like an off-growing season kind of thing, but that's not a bad idea at all. I have considered at times building some cages that go like over my garden bed, like over the walkway there, and letting them run loose in there, like the grow outs, but I'm afraid that trying to keep them in would be tricky. But who knows? I could build some tractors that are the same width as my grow beds and just tractor them along that, I guess. I don't know. It's something to think about. Still more, in case any new quail folks don't know, never put fresh quail poop in the garden. It's way too hot and will burn your plants up. Yep, that's a good point. It is too hot. I mean, it won't necessarily, it's not a guarantee that it's going to burn your plants up, but it's a pretty good chance it will. And by hot, we mean it's got too much nitrogen in it. So you give too much nitrogen to your plants, and then they say, oh, to burn your plants up, it's hot, because it does make them look like they've been burned up. They'll start shriveling, not shriveling, but like get dry and crispy and that kind of orange-yellow kind of look to the leaves like they've been burned. That's because of too much nitrogen. So yeah, you don't want to use fresh quail manure. You need to compost it for 6 months. Mix it in with some grass or hay or something like that, and it'll compost down. And I say 6 months. It depends. If you're turning it pretty regularly, you can get it composted down in a couple of weeks, but I'm kind of lazy with compost a lot of the times. All right, Wild Spirit says, would a male rabbit that is neutered breed with a female rabbit, or would she let him breed with her? Well, if he's neutered, he's not going to breed with anything. I mean, he's neutered, so it's not going to happen. Hopefully that answers it. Jesse says, "Hey Chris, I watch you all the time. Because of you, I plan to get some meat rabbits." Well, awesome. I hope they do well. I had to check the time there. I saw Jupiter say, "Have a good night, everyone." I thought we were running out of time. Good night to you, Jupiter. Thanks for joining. K-Thomp says, I put my doe in my buck, and she was very aggressive with the buck. Should I try to rebreed her? I put my doe in with the buck. Well, I mean, you can try for sure. It's a little strange for them to be super aggressive with the buck. I mean, it could be that she just wasn't ready to breed at the time, and he was ready to breed and, you know, annoyed the heck out of her kind of thing. So, yeah, give her another try, see how it works. If you continue to have that issues, again, that's the thing where if you can get it, I'd just look for another rabbit, because it's so much easier to get a rabbit that's willing to breed and is a good mother than it is to try to fix all those problems. But give her another try. You never know. She may warm up to them. Or if you can, you might want to find a neutral place where you can, it's not his cage, it's not her cage. It's a cage that's just empty and nobody else is, you know, using it. You put the buck in there, then bring the doe and put her in there as well and see if that helps a little bit. All right, Casey says potatoes get 3 tires stacked on top of each one layer of potatoes in each tire. That way you get potatoes in the wintertime too. Yeah, there's several ways you can do that, but you're right. That's a good way to do it. Crystal says, hi. Good to see you, Crystal. Madison says, I'm trying to get a chance to go up to Virginia because I have a dog lot I want to get for my pit bull. Hopefully I can go this weekend. I'm not sure what we're talking about. A dog lot? Well, I don't know. Either way, good luck with it. I'm not sure. I'm lost on that. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Is that Lucas? Says, I have some baby rabbits and they're now 5 weeks old. When should I move them to different cages and away from the mother? Wait till they're at least 6 weeks old. You don't want to wean them away from the mother before that. And honestly, depending on what size they are, if you're going to be processing them out at 8 weeks, you can just process them. You don't ever have to remove them from the mother. If they're going to be on with the mother much longer than about 8 weeks, I would go ahead and remove them, 7 to 8 weeks, somewhere right around in there, just to make sure they're fully weaned. And I always move off like half of them at one time, give it a couple of days, and then move the other half. That just gives her a chance to kind of dry up a little bit and not just, boom, suddenly no kits. All right, Christopher says, my silver fox rabbit should kit anymore. She's building a nest now. Okay. Good luck. I hope that you have good luck with that. I'm not sure if I'm misunderstanding, but I'm not sure if you're asking me a question or not. Anyway, we'll go on. I got 5 minutes left here. We'll see how much more I can get done in 5 minutes. And then if you can come back and clarify that, I'll try to answer it for you. Otherwise, we'll just have to go. Crystal says, I have a question. My bunny just had newborn bunnies, and she had them on a blanket. It looks like the mama wants them there. Should I let her be, or put them in a nest box? If it was me, I would put them in a nest box. The blanket's not really a good option for them for a couple of reasons. One is that any kind of urine, feces, all that's just going to get caked on there. It's going to get nasty really, really quick. The other one is if the blanket gets rolled over, folded up, they get underneath it. It's a solid, it's not hard, but it's solid. There's no holes in it, kind of thing. And it's very easy for the mother to jump on top of that blanket, pin the babies down, and suffocate them underneath it. So I would move them to a nest box. She's going to be fine with you moving them. It's okay. She may be a little bit nervous whenever you're dealing with them just because you're dealing with her babies, but you move them to a nest box. She's not going to abandon them or anything like that. If it was me, I would definitely move them to a nest box. Keto says, I have a silver fox too. I used to have a silver fox. So, I like silver foxes. They're nice rabbits. All right. Manuel says, hey, Chris from Marshall, Missouri. Hey, that's not too far. Well, maybe I'm getting confused. Anyway, I'll be getting silver foxes in a few weeks, and your videos have been really helpful about raising meat rabbits. What is the average litter count for your silver fox doe? Well, I don't have a silver fox anymore. Used to, but if I remember right, she was throwing 8 or 9 average per litter, probably 7 or 8, somewhere right around in there. About the same as like a New Zealand or a California. You're looking anywhere from like 7 to 10 in that range. All right. Hello to you, Sunshine. K-Thump says, I'm looking to buy more rabbits. Well, get some more then. Good night to you, Madison. Thanks for joining. Keto says they average 10 kits a litter. I think that's probably a little high on the average side, but it's not uncommon. 10 kits per litter is not uncommon at all. Rough Patch Homestead says, do some does just self-wean kits at 4 weeks? I have 3 does that do every time. Well, are you sure they're weaning them at 4 weeks? I mean, it's possible, yeah. But a lot of times you'll think the babies are weaned because they're eating food. They're going to start eating food at 3 weeks, 4 weeks old, somewhere right around in there. That's pretty common. They'll start eating the mother's food, and they'll go through it pretty quick. Mine are 3 weeks old right now, and they're eating a lot of the mother's food, but they're still weaning too. So you don't really want to move them off. Really about 6 weeks is about the minimum, because then you might end up with things like weaning enteritis, which can do a baby rabbit in very, very quickly. All right, we just got a couple of minutes here. All right, so Christopher says, sorry, anytime. What? Sorry, anytime what? So it's just a comment that she's going to have her babies anytime. I get it. Okay. Well, hey, hopefully the litter goes well, the kindling goes well, and you have some good results there. Crystal says the mama... Okay, she had them on a blanket. Okay, there we go. I'm with you now. But she moves the nest box like crazy. Looks like she wants to flip the box over. That way I let them be on... that's why I let them be on the blanket. Yeah, that happens sometimes. I don't know if they're in a cage. If they're in a cage, just wire the nest box to the floor. She can't tip it over. Or to the side of the cage, or wherever you want to put it. My doe moves the nest box all around the cage. She doesn't really tip it over. I've had it happen one time, but the rest of the time she just moves it around. But if you have a problem with it, you can just take a piece of wire and wire it to the cage wall. Casey says, Chris, have a blessed night. Thank you. You too. And Jake says, well, what's up, man? Thanks for your inspiration. Well, thank you for the kind comments. We're really pretty much out of time now, so thank you guys all for joining tonight. I appreciate it. I always look forward to spending a Thursday evening just talking with you guys for a little while. But I do got to get this wrapped up because, well, I got a life outside of this. I got to go to work in the morning. You guys get it. You understand. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully we'll see you guys again next week. And as always, God bless.